Positioning elements is one of the most important things on a website. Today we're going to be talking about the CSS Position Property, a few of its values, and how they would work with each other. The first and default one for most elements is known as static positioning. It's easy to understand as it doesn't really do anything, and the element follows a normal flow of the page, as you can see over here. There's the text over here, then that's the box over here, and then the more text beneath it. Even if we do target this box 1 over here and change its position to static, nothing really changes over here. The next one is known as position relative. This just positions the element relative to its normal position. Unlike the static one we just discussed, there are more things you can do now to actually change where the box is over here. So I'm just going to change it from static to relative quickly. And then from there, we can now target 4 other values that we can change. And this is the top, right, bottom, and left. Now the first thing that I'll do is target the left side. So I'll target the left by 100 pixels, and if I save that, you can tell that it's moved by 100 pixels from the left. And we can also target the top, and with the top, I'll just target it by 10 pixels. If I save that, what you'll notice is that this over here, the box, is over the content over here. And in fact, let me just exaggerate that a bit. I'll put 50. So as you can see, it's covering the content over here. So now the box is above the text below it, but the space that the box was in is not covered up by this content over here. So this space will remain there. So I'm just going to take that away and return it to its normal position again. So I'm going to save that and it should return back to normal. The third type of position is known as fixed. So if I apply it to this box over here, I'll first take this away and put in fixed. Now if I save that, what you will notice over here is that the content behind it fills that gap that it had over here earlier. What this value does is that it positions the elements relative to the viewport, so the viewport being the whole web browser space over here, which means wherever you position it, the box will stay fixed there no matter what, even if you scroll up and down. So if I took this and say maybe bottom rather, let's say bottom, and then I said 0 pixels. If I save that, you can tell the box at the bottom over here. Even if I scrolled up or down, it will always remain there in its fixed position. Now the fourth one can be a pretty fun one. So I'm just going to take this away real quick just so I can demonstrate it. So the fourth one is known as sticky, and it does as the name implies. If I save that, it really does nothing right now. But what this does is if I scroll over here, it's meant to stick at any of the edges of the screen that you assign it to. So what I mean by this, if I assign this to top 0, and then I save that, that means if this edge over here comes in contact with that box's edge, this box should stick to the top. You can also do this for the bottom, right, or left, depending on how you're scrolling on your page. So right now, if I scroll, you notice that this box is over the content and it sticks to the edge over there. And if you scroll back up again, it should return back to its normal place. Now we can finally work with the small box that you've been seeing over here. I'll just take this away so we can start off clean. So now this last one is known as absolute positioning. What this does is that it positions any element with this value relative to its nearest parent. So right now, if you look at the HTML over here, this small box that's in between these 2 divs over here, that's the child of this parent over here. So that's what I basically mean. This parent is housing this child box over here. On our right over here, that would be the big box being the parent and the small one being the child. But one important thing to take note of this is that the child will only position itself relative to a parent that has a position value that is relative. This means that if I give this small box a position of absolute, actually let me quickly do that so I can just demonstrate. So absolute, we give it that. So if I assign a value of the top to 0 pixels, this box will instead go to the top over here instead of staying in this box over here because its default positioning is static and it will not work with those values. So I'll give its position of top over here and make it 0 pixels. What you'll notice is it stays at the top like I said, and it overlaps any other contents below it. But now if you wanted to position the smaller box into this bigger box over here to make it identified as its parent, we need to change the position value of this big box to relative instead. So if I change that to position relative and this is position absolute, if I save that, the top value over here should make it stick to the top over there. And yes, it was here initially, but to make sure that this works, I'll just assign it to the bottom and you'll notice that it sticks to the bottom of this box over here. The position property, along with its various values, can be used in some simple things like navigation. We can make sure that once you scroll down the page, the navigation doesn't disappear like here, but instead sticks to the top of the page like in the second example. I think that's about it when it comes to CSS positioning and its values. With that, I'll see you guys in the next one.